Is it cursed? Let's find out.
Stonehenge, not cursed, just a big sundial. Terracotta Army, maybe a little cursed. Black sarcophagus, medium cursed just because it's a biohazard. Alexandria Stela, not cursed at all, it's a royal proclamation. King Tut's tomb, not cursed, it's just a tomb. The Ring of Silvianus, actually cursed. Okay, this is the Ring of Silvianus, and yes, this is cursed. Let me tell you why. This is a gold ring that belonged to a guy named Silvianus living in Roman Britain. What happened is the ring got stolen, and he knew exactly who stole it. So, like any good Roman, he went to the nearest temple of the god Nodens, which was super cool, Romano-Celtic combo god, and made an official curse tablet cursing the guy who stole his ring, a guy named Senicianus, and cursed Senicianus with no good health until this ring was returned to the Temple of Nodens. This ring is thought to be the inspiration for the One Ring in Lord of the Rings, and the temple that it needs to go to is in Gloucestershire.
Here we see a perfect example of mid-second millennia European idol worship. Being a largely illiterate people, the native Europeans relied on symbols in order to understand their gods. Behind me is the altar where native Europeans take part in a ritual of symbolic cannibalism. The Europeans are a simple people, but perhaps in this complex age, we could learn something from their simplicity. As an anthropologist myself, I find it sad to see these relics in such unkempt places of worship rather than a museum where they belong. Da 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 da, da da da, da 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 da.
I live in a state of...
Yeah, nah, look, as Australians, we lost 2 wars to them bush chooks. And I can't ignore the fact that Sheila's just giving him a big fucking don't argue when he's pulled up. What the f***?
We go to bed, you doze off, so I take your country girl.
People in the 19th century were obsessed with making stuff up about medieval Europe. So here's my top 3 myths that they invented. Number 1, that medieval Europeans thought the earth was flat. This was just complete lies. Medieval Europeans even knew an accurate circumference of the earth, and this had been known since ancient times. Number 2, that medieval women had to wear chastity belts, which of course couldn't have happened because you would just get an infection and die straight away. Number 3, that Vikings wore horned helmets, which of course wouldn't be very good in battle if you could just yank someone's head down and kill them. And a quick bonus one from the 18th century, the Iron Maiden. Not a real torture device, never used.
When our items get returned from museums, there's generally 3 things that happen to them. 1, they may be displayed in a similar sort of museum, but they're at home now. 2, they may be used. So they may be used for ceremonial purposes, regalia may be worn, bundles may be used in ceremony. Basically, they're fulfilling their role. Or 3, they may be laid to rest or allowed to rest. This will often happen with human remains, like the children that were found in the graveyards at residential schools. But it can also relate to items that are at the end of their life cycle, like Haida totem poles, which were never intended to be preserved, but allowed to decay and return to the earth. The important thing here is that communities get to decide what actually happens, rather than the museums. And while we thank them for taking care of our relatives, we're happy to have them home.
Have you heard the claim that women in the West give birth laying on their back because King Louis XIV had a fetish for it. While it's true that King Louis XIV was a bit of a perv and liked to watch his offspring enter the world this way, it's not the sole reason why it still happens today. It was actually this guy who popularized the method. This is Francois Morisot. He was an obstetrician who wrote in his 1668 book, The Diseases of Women with Child and in the Childbed, that it was much easier for women to give birth this way and much more convenient for the obstetrician. Before then, birthing stools like this were common. Sitting like this to give birth meant gravity did a lot of the work, and if you didn't have a birthing stool, then you would give birth standing up, squatting, or on all fours.
Things I apparently can't do as an archaeologist. Can't eat the tomb cheese. Can't eat the forbidden cereal. Can't eat the volcano bread. Can't eat the forbidden gummy bear. Can't drink the skeleton juice. Can't eat the bog butter. Can't drink the forbidden wine. What even is the point of archaeology then?
How my great-aunt got ready for work in the 40s. Like many ladies, she started with the brassiere and steppins, followed by stockings held up with a garter belt. She would have worn a simple slip, and since she worked as a secretary and her job could be stressful, she wore a dress shield to manage sweat. She had just a couple of fancy utility suits that she would wear over these many, many delicate blouses. She would then add her jacket, a favorite pin, and a sensible pair of heels. What do you wear to work?
By injecting children with cowpox, we can prevent the onset of smallpox.
How can we be sure that you're not trying to kill us?
I am literally a doctor.
How do we know that the government haven't put tiny scrolls in there to control my brain?
You can't even read. Why would scrolls be a problem?
I will take my chances with smallpox.
Herbert, 9 of your children died of smallpox.
I will take my chances.
Well, at least we won't have to deal with this in 200 years.